Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you for joining us tonight. We know that your time is valuable, and the fact that you've chosen to be here tells us something important. Your heart is open, your story matters, and you are ready to explore what healing could look like right now. We want our time together to be a refuge for you. And to that end, we're going to walk through the very real and layered experiences of grief that so many people are facing right now. Everything from sudden personal tragedy to collective trauma to any hidden wounds that might be beneath the surface. And so we have two goals for our time together. One, we just want to check in and help you discover where you are right now emotionally. And secondly, we want to help you find a path forward. So we're going to share some insights and then give you an opportunity to write down things that come up for you as we go. It's kind of an interactive process. You're welcome to share, but please don't feel like you have to. At the end of the day, we just want you to be safe and feel comfortable. So if you can, have your camera on so we can connect more personally, but if you can't, that's totally okay. If it's uncomfortable or just not possible, don't worry about it. Tonight is really about taking the time to honor you and your experiences. So Vicki and I are going to talk for about 45 minutes, and we just want to be of service to you and give you a safe place to process what's going on right now. And again, I just want to say thank you for being with us, and we're so grateful that we can be with you in this time.
Yeah. And before we get started, I want to take a quick minute to introduce ourselves. So, we are Daniel and Vicki Hagedorn. We are certified grief recovery specialists, and we have been helping people process grief, loss, and trauma for more than 20 years. And our purpose here is completely what Dan just said. It's to open up a conversation about the various forms of grief that you may be experiencing right now. Because we are on the heels of a very severe storm. And we want to just say natural disasters are terrifying.
Yeah.
And as we sit in the aftermath of this storm and the heavy rains that have hit central Texas, and we know that there's towns across the Guadalupe River that have been hit so hard. There's neighborhoods, campgrounds, there's places that have been there for generations that have just been taken out. And we know that this tragedy has made national headlines, but we know that the heartbreak goes far beyond any one place. And this all comes on the heels of many natural disasters that we've experienced just here in Texas over these recent years. We've had a horrific flood in Wimberley. We've had wildfires. We've had a snowpocalypse. We've
Yeah.
had tornadoes. And that's just in Texas. We know that there have been fires and floods and things all around. And one thing that is clear, families across our states are grieving. People are sorting through debris and trying to comprehend how much life has changed literally overnight. So, even those who live far away from the floods and maybe you weren't affected, we have all really felt the ache of this tragic event. And the world just feels heavy right now. And so many people are walking around with wounded hearts and carrying more than they were ever meant to. And that's why we really wanted to do our monthly webinar a little differently this month, not so much as a training, but as a refuge, as a place to breathe, to reflect, and to really bring a reminder that your pain matters. So, whether you're personally grieving, whether you're carrying the weight of this collective tragedy, or maybe you're here because you're not sure how to support someone else. And we just want to encourage you, this space is for you. There is no pressure. There's no pressure at all. It's just presence, compassion, and some tools to help you feel grounded again.
Yeah. So let me officially, I guess you could say, welcome you to When the World Shifts Overnight, Finding Healing in Times of Tragedy. There's a few things we're going to be going over and talking about tonight. We're going to talk about how sudden tragedies like natural disasters, accidents, and unexpected loss impact our emotional world. We're going to talk about what happens when grief triggers our old wounds. the quiet cost of carrying collective grief and how to respond with compassion. We're going to talk about how to recognize the hidden signs of emotional trauma and begin to release them, let go of them. We're going to talk about how to calm the internal storm when your emotional world feels just turned upside down. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to support others who are hurting. So before we get into the meat of what we wanted to go over tonight, I just wanted to invite us to pause together. Just take a moment to take a breath, create a little bit of space for whatever it is that you are holding right now. We're not trying to fix anything here. That's not the point. We're not trying to just push through. All we want you to do is just settle in and offer yourself a moment of peace without judgment. So if it feels safe, I invite you to close your eyes and we'll move into a short grounding meditation.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we're going to take some time right now, wherever you are, to just take a deep breath and slowly exhale. Let your shoulders drop and let your jaw unclench. And let's do that again. Take in a deep breath in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And feel your feet supported by the floor beneath you. Feel your back supported by the seat behind you. You don't need to hold anything up right now. You can let go. This space is for you. You don't need to perform. You don't need to fix anything. You are allowed to be exactly where you are. You might feel tired or weary or uncertain. And as you continue to breathe, we want you to think of yourself as being open. Imagine that your breath is clearing space inside you, making room for reflection, making room for truth, making room for healing. And if you feel emotion rising, let it come. And if you feel resistance, that's okay too. Everything you feel is welcome here. Let this be a soft landing. Let this be the beginning of a deeper exhale. And when you're ready, slowly bring your attention back here into the room with us, back into this gathering and to the quiet strength within you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes, I love that. Just some grounding here. And as we move into our topic of when the world shifts overnight, I hope that you're feeling a little more peaceful right now. So when we experience sudden loss, it doesn't just break your heart. It literally disorients your whole nervous system. And it leaves you trying to make sense of a world that no longer feels safe or familiar. And a lot of times when we think of grief, we often picture losing someone we love. And yes, many people are mourning the loss of family, children, neighbors, and friends. And this pain is unimaginable. And we also want to point out, in the midst of tragedy, grief can take many forms. The loss of a loved one, the loss of safety, security, familiarity, and regular routines, the loss of treasured possessions and memories, and even the loss of hopes and future plans.
Yeah. There's a lot of loss. bound up that. And after disaster strikes, grief doesn't arrive by itself. It's not alone. In fact, it's often accompanied by things like shock, anxiety, feelings of helplessness. You might feel numb or dazed or guilty that you survived when others didn't. These are all normal responses to traumatic events. And even if they don't look like the, quote unquote, typical grief, they matter. They matter a lot. The definition of unresolved grief is conflicting feelings caused by the end of a familiar pattern of behavior. If you can't exactly name your feelings, or maybe you're feeling many different things all at the same time, chances are you're experiencing grief. Loss is deeply personal, and so is healing. It's so important to practice compassion here by not judging, comparing, or minimizing anyone's experience, reaction, or process, especially your own. That's because although we're hardest on ourselves, this is really a time to give voice to everyone's story. Even when we don't understand someone's reaction, we can choose to honor it.
So we want to take some time to name just 6 of the most common reactions in the wake of a natural disaster and a sudden tragedy. So number 1, and I'm going to give an overview and we're going to go deep into each one of these, but
Yeah.
these are the 6 that we're going to talk about. Feeling powerless and being overwhelmed by an ongoing fear. Number 2 is emotional shock, disbelief, and numbness after trauma. Number 3 is intense grief, mourning, and a guilt for surviving. Number 4 is a loss of identity, disrupted roles, and deep shame. Number 5 is anger over injustice. This is so big, and it can also cause strained relationships. And 6 is struggling to find meaning or purpose in the aftermath of such a disaster. So we're going to first look at loss of control and persistent fear. So the suddenness of disaster really just shatters predictability, right? Aftershocks or ongoing warnings. I know we had rain just continue for weeks after the floods here, and I kept getting, like you get those notices on your phone, like flood alert and go to high places, and it's just like these ongoing things that reinforce that there's so much out of our control, out of our hands, and there can be this enduring sense of helplessness, and this fuels this idea of what if this happens again? Or what if something like this happens again? And you may find it hard in these times to even make small decisions like what to eat or where to go, because our nervous systems can stay on high alert, because that's what happens automatically when you're trying to protect yourself from danger. And even if it's no longer there, that nervous system can still be engaged like that. And it's because this is your body doing its best to protect you. So what helps now is not pretending that everything's fine, but creating small grounding routines that remind your heart that you're safe, that you are not alone, and you don't have to figure everything out all at once.
Yeah. The second is traumatic shock, disbelief, and emotional numbing. The amount of sensory input that's generated by a disaster is just overwhelming. You have lost homes, neighborhoods wiped out, injured family and neighbors. All of this can trigger a dissociative fight or flight shutdown of our emotions. And so, in the immediate aftermath of tragedy, your mind does something that's actually pretty remarkable to protect you. It goes numb. And so, you may find yourself walking through wreckage or comforting others and yet feel strangely disconnected, almost as if you're watching everything happen from far, far away. This kind of dissociation is the body's way of saying, this is too much. I'll carry it for you until you're ready. And so you might feel spaced out. or unable to cry, or surprised by how calm you seem when everything around you has fallen apart. But
Mm.
days or weeks later, that emotional wall can begin to crack. And without a safe way to process what happened, the pain that was numbed can actually become stuck. Numbing may get us through the storm, but it cannot carry us towards healing. That's why a gentle re engagement matters. Just small things, taking a deep breath, naming an emotion you're feeling, just anchoring yourself in the present moment. This isn't about rushing into the pain, it's just about letting your heart know, hey, it's safe enough to now begin. And so these emotions may come slowly, and that's okay. But feeling them is the doorway to healing.
Yeah, number 3 is acute grief, bereavement, and survivor's guilt. So, grieving a sudden loss is painful enough. And when we add to that, why not me? That is a question that often brings guilt, and guilt will take root. And without support, this can turn into a very complicated grief that can isolate you further. The sheer randomness of who survives creates a deep sorrow, like a feeling of this can't be real, this can't be happening. And it leads to grief, shame, and sometimes social withdrawal. This is a survivor's guilt. And it's a pain that often goes unspoken because it feels too confusing to even explain. And that's why we talk about naming, because naming is the beginning of healing.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to justify your sadness and you don't have to carry it alone. So it's so important to find somewhere that you can say the unsayable, to speak of the sorrow and the guilt, and to be met with compassion instead of correction. Because in that space, something will begin to soften, and slowly the guilt will give way to grace. And counseling needs to validate the guilt, validate everything that you're feeling, and redirect it toward compassion. It's essential. That's essential in any kind of counseling and any kind of healing.
Yeah. Number 4 is the loss of identity, role disruption, and shame. Losing your home or your job or your community can really make you feel, in some ways, like you've lost your identity. And
Mhm.
that loss, it's disorienting to say the least. It actually creates an identity vacuum, like a hollow space where your sense of self used to be. And so you might find yourself asking, who am I now?
Yeah.
What do I have to offer? Will I ever feel like myself again? Will life ever be good again? And then you add to that relying on others for basic needs, which can stir up deep feelings of shame or invisibility. I mean, even when people are kind, there's something inside of you that might whisper, you've become a burden. That whisper is a lie. But in our vulnerable state, that lie is very easy to believe. Sometimes healing starts not with big breakthroughs, but with very simple rituals: making coffee in the morning, feeding a pet, saying a prayer at night. Other times it begins by stepping into a small role in your community to help wherever you can. Bottom line, just have compassion on yourself. Be gentle. Honor your former life by sharing your memories with someone, because unresolved grief is undelivered communication of an emotional nature. So, in that simple act of remembering and sharing, healing begins.
Yes, so important. Number 5 is anger, injustice, and relationship strain. In the aftermath of a tragedy like this, anger often arrives without warning. It might come in waves or maybe even feel like a fire that just won't go out. It's so easy to feel rage at the unfairness of it all, at the storm, at God, at the systems that failed, or even how help seemed to come too late. You might even feel it toward yourself for not doing more, not preparing better, not being able to stop what happened. This is all grief looking for a place to land. So this anger is not wrong. It's human. It's how your nervous system tries to create meaning from something senseless. It's a way to reassert control when life has stripped it away. But if this anger goes unspoken, it will fracture the very relationships that you need the most, because you can find yourself lashing out at the people who are closest to you, or pulling away even because it's just too vulnerable to be seen in this kind of pain. And loved ones might not totally understand your mood changes, and misunderstandings can pile up. And that's why naming anger matters. And it's not just to justify harmful behavior, right? But to acknowledge the pain underneath it. So anger, when it's met with empathy and not shame, it will soften. When you are angry and you are sharing that anger, maybe you're venting, right? And someone can say, well, of course you feel this way, or what you're feeling totally makes sense. It becomes easier to stay connected instead of isolate, because someone is validating your anger is real. And really what you're saying in your anger is, this mattered to me and I needed it to be different. And sometimes the most healing thing we can do is simply stay, to offer our presence to someone, to let them voice that anger without judgment, and definitely without advice that they did not ask for.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. And lastly, number 6, crisis of meaning. Some losses don't just break your heart, they actually blow up the ground beneath your beliefs. You start asking questions like, how could this happen? Or where is God in all of this? Or what does this mean for everything that I thought I knew? And when tragedy strikes without warning, it's not just taking what you love, it can also shatter your sense of safety, your sense of justice, divine order to things. The questions often come very quietly at first and then all at once. The kind of grief that runs deeper than pain because it touches your purpose, your story, even your faith. But hear this, asking those questions does not make you weak or wrong or bad. It just makes you honest. This is why healing doesn't begin with answers, but with permission. Permission to feel, to wrestle, to bring your heartbreak into the light. There are no wrong feelings here, only a heart that's searching for meaning again. And that search matters.
Yes, and I love this picture so much. And we want you to take a minute and imagine that your mind is a peaceful pond. And suddenly 6 heavy stones are dropped into the water. And these are the names on those stones: fear, numbness, grief, anger, identity loss, and shattered meaning. All these things we've been talking about. And the ripples from these stones immediately spiral out, crashing into one another, which just creates chaos. And we want to remind you that this can bring up that feeling of powerlessness and anxiety, numbness and exhaustion. Sometimes you're unable to process what's going on around you. You can feel deep sorrow and haunted by guilt. And like we were talking about, you might lash out in frustration and then feel ashamed. You might feel like you just don't even know who you are anymore. And you might even be questioning everything you once believed. And this is a storm that's inside your heart. And tonight we're going to show you how to begin calming the waters.
Yeah.
So we've just explored 6 of the most common ripple effects that disasters like the recent floods can have on our hearts and on our minds and on our bodies as well, right? These are real human experiences, and chances are some of them have already shown up in your own life. And before we move forward, we wanted to invite you to pause right here. And whether you're with us live or whether you're watching the replay, take a few moments to reflect and write your answers to these questions. Here are 2 simple questions to guide your reflection. Which of these 6 ripple effects have you experienced? And which one has been hardest for you to name or express? And remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just a space to notice your feelings and name what has been hidden. And when you put it in writing, something powerful happens. It really truly is something that's processing as you're engaging your mind in this way. So out of those 6 things that we just talked about, which of those have you experienced and has been the hardest for you to name or express? So we're going to put 2 minutes on the timer. Dan, can you put a timer on for that?
I will. I will be happy.
Awesome. So I'm going to put on a little music and we're going to hold space for a few minutes to just write down, what did you most connect to?
Okay, that is time. So if more things came up, just you can always continue writing, but we just wanted to give you build a pause in here for you to take a moment and really kind of feel through, not just think through, but feel through these things. And the reason for that is because the world moves on very quickly after tragedy. Debris is cleared away, roads reopen, and at least on the surface, life seems like it's going on. And it can also, for us, even feel like there's a pressure for us to, quote, move on and get over it, right? Some people just want to avoid painful memories, and they're uncomfortable being around those who are still living in those memories. But our hearts don't follow construction timelines. And so you may still be grieving weeks, months, even years later. That's because grief doesn't end when the headlines do. There are no stages of grief, but there are waves that you will experience. And you might find yourself asking on the end of one of those waves, why am I still feeling this? The answer to that question is very simple. Because you're human and this pain mattered.
Yeah.
In our experience, the most powerful way to help someone heal from grief is by giving them a safe space to express the unspoken words, emotions, and regrets they've been carrying. It's often the things that we didn't get to say that keep us stuck. And when those things are finally voiced and honored, healing begins.
And yes, and I love this quote. This is by Gabor Mate. And if you have never heard of him, I recommend researching him a bit. He has incredible things to say on trauma. And he says this, he says, trauma isn't what happened to you. It's what happened inside of you as a result of what happened. So powerful to think about. There are two parts to every trauma. The first is what happened, like the storm, the loss, the heartbreak, the accident. There's that first part. And the second, and this is the part that we focus on the most, is how we respond to what happened, how we care for the wounded places inside of us. And this is the only part that we do have any control over, is our response. Because healing is not about moving on, it's about moving through. So we want to encourage you to be kind to yourself, and we're going to give you 4 points that we want to start with here. So acknowledge what you're grieving, whether it's a person, a place, your peace of mind, your sense of safety, or something else. Number 2, share your feelings with someone who can be trusted to simply listen. You want to talk to someone who isn't going to try to fix you or tell you some kind of an intellectual remark, right? To tell you that they're in a better place, or the things we can say intellectually. You don't want to talk to someone that's going to minimize your experiences. Number 3 is you want to give yourself grace. Your energy, your focus, or your patience might feel really thin right now. And that's more than okay. It's human. And number 4 is you want to exercise the power of compassion. So that's not just for others, but for yourself. Because in the middle of heartache, the small steps matter. And remember, we always want to say this more and more and more, is that you are not broken. You are having an emotional response to something that really mattered a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's important to honor your loss by taking a moment to acknowledge what's missing. One of the most powerful tools from the grief recovery method is a very simple but profound question. What do I wish could have been different, better, or more? Let yourself sit with that for a second. Just write it out. Don't filter, don't edit yourself, just whatever comes up. Disappointments, regrets, unspoken words, let it all rise to the surface. This process will help bring your emotional truth into the light, and truth is what sets the stage for healing. If
Yeah.
possible, I would even encourage you to read what you've written here tonight aloud to a safe person. Again, like Vicki was saying a moment ago, someone who's not going to interrupt you or, quote, fix you or minimize what you went through. Because here's the truth: undelivered emotional communication will continue to create suffering. But when you voice what was left unsaid, you are releasing what your heart was never meant to carry.
Yes, in moments like these, everyone feels the weight: the flood victims, the families, the first responders, and even those who are watching from a distance. I have literally found myself crying on and off since the flood, just so heartbroken, seeing things on social media, and now even seeing they're having the funerals and services, and it's just so heartbreaking. And when you think, like we were saying, of the meaninglessness, like why, these questions that we have. So how do we support others, especially when we are hurting too? And here are a few gentle reminders. Number 1, grief is emotional, it's not intellectual. Feeling sad, scared, angry, or overwhelmed is a normal human response to tragedy. We've been socially wired to intellectualize our emotions in order to fit in. And so we want to tell you right now that grief is emotional, and it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. Number 2 is we want to encourage you to listen with your heart and not your head. Don't try to fix anything. Just be present. Let emotions be expressed without judgment, advice, or analysis. A lot of times there isn't a right thing to say, but just, I can't imagine, and just be there. Remember too that grief is personal. Each person has a unique relationship with what was lost. And it's important that we respect everyone's process of grieving. So be patient. You don't need the right words. You just need to show up, sit beside them, and be a safe presence. Here's a few don'ts. Don't say, don't feel scared, or don't feel sad. Fear and sadness are natural and even necessary responses to loss. Let people have those feelings, especially children, especially the kids. Don't act strong, like act like everything's fine, especially for the kids, because they learn how to grieve by watching us. And when you allow yourself to feel, you will give them permission to do the same. If they see you crying and being emotional, it actually is going to allow them to show their heart as well. Avoid comparison, like this could be worse or others have it worse or harder. These only silence and minimize their pain. Every loss matters. And we don't want to try to intellectually process. We want to emotionally process. And lastly, don't make promises that you can't keep. So instead of saying everything's going to be okay, when you're not sure where things are right now, you can try instead to say something like, I don't have all the answers, but I'm here with you and we're not alone. These are the kinds of things that are truthful and that will honestly help build a bridge between people's hearts, because especially kids and everybody, they know when something's true.
Yeah.
When something's being true.
Yeah. And so if any emotions came to the surface tonight, just please know that is proof of everything that's right with you, not what's wrong with you. As we've been trying to say in a number of different ways, grief is a natural and normal response to a loss of any kind. And so whenever you're ready, we invite you to take the next step, whether that's through a private conversation with us or simply coming back for our next webinar. We just encourage you to let your grief have a voice, to let your story be heard, to remember that you are not broken and you are certainly not alone. Just, I want to say for Vicki and I, thank you so much for being here tonight. You can snap a screenshot of our contact information now, or you can catch all the links in the chat, or we're also going to send a follow-up email that will include a replay of tonight. But again, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes. And if you are getting this replay by maybe someone sharing the link with you and you did not necessarily register, so you won't be getting the email from us, you can reach out and I'd be happy to send you the email with information. We're also sending out a guide that has some really great reminders and some really great ways to process grief, especially when it's from something tragic like this that's so fast, like a disaster or an event. So we want to just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for sharing this time with us. We hope that this met you where you are and that it gave you some peace and maybe some insight. And we are here all month, and we are welcoming conversations. If you need, you can reach out to us, like Dan said, and we'll be happy to chat with you and listen, and also give you next steps if that's what you are interested in. So wherever you are, we send you peace and blessings. And until next time.
See y'all.